Oliver, a couple of weeks ago at Cabinet, you mentioned the words working in partnership. Would you say that's going to be the hallmark of your portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think in terms of how we approach our relationships with schools, we really are after standards and not structures. So we don't care about the precise formal relationship between the local authority and schools. We care about what we can do to improve the performance of schools, to work together with those schools so the schools help other schools to improve performance. And really it's about making sure that conversation about improving standards for our pupils really does take place.
So what role, with this, a lot of the schools, they're like a ship that sailed away from the harbour, have gone to be academies. What role can you play?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure I necessarily agree that it's all about that precise relationship. And we were at Schools Forum this morning and we had a really constructive conversation, I thought, about how the relationship between academies and the local authority and the other schools continues even through academy status. And I think what's really important to get over is that relationship between local authority and schools pre-academy conversion is only one aspect of what we can do to support schools. I mean, there are so many other elements of making sure that we give our expertise and time to schools and really ensure that they are thinking about how to improve their results, how to improve standards, how to keep that journey of improvement going. But I think the precise structures may change, but hopefully the conversations that we have around improvement don't.
So without divulging, you had the meeting this morning, there's the 10 senior heads. What's the relationship like? Is it Russia and America, or is it there's much more détente?
I mean, I think it's a good working relationship. As with any good working relationship, there are frank discussions and there's not always agreement on issues. And I think clearly, if we're having the sort of grown-up dialogue that we need to have around improvement in schools, there isn't always going to be agreement around particular courses of action or particular items. But I think what's great is that we are in the position where we have that constructive grown-up dialogue. We have the ability to talk frankly about what we need our levels of achievement to be, about where we see the future and the progress for schools. And so I'm really enthusiastic from my point of view about what we can do for Thurrock.
Achilles, in the body of Labour, saw an Achilles heel with education. And when Diana they almost broke under questioning of calling it grammar schools by stealth. This is something you're going to have to come back to again and again and again.
I mean, I think we're on strong ground with this because I think our starting point is standards for pupils, standards in schools, and outcomes. In terms of our policy, our approach, we're not driven at all by ideology around the vehicle of getting that improvement. So you saw at Cabinet, we took the decision to make Thameside into a primary academy. Actually, that's all around seeing the opportunity to take that status because we think that's the best opportunity for us to provide good leadership for the school, to link them into a real network of support amongst other academies. So on a case-by-case basis, we're going to do what we think's best for performance in a school, not necessarily what is an ideologically driven decision on a case-by-case basis.
Because I guess one of the plaudits will be that the amount of even just a year or 18 months ago, the amount of interim heads was crippling, I guess, the progress. But now, I spoke to Christina Pumphrey, I think there may be only one interim left, and that I guess is a great sign, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw this with the council generally, where we had a large number of interims in the senior management team, something like 6 chief executives over 5 years, and you just can't have sustained improvements when you don't have that permanent management team. And I think the same's true as the council as it is for schools. You need that team that's really interested in driving a complete step change in performance. And I think the work we've done at getting permanent head teachers in place across the primaries has been absolutely fantastic. And I think taking every opportunity as well to consolidate infant and junior schools into single primary schools has really been fantastic in terms of focusing that resource.
Leaping ahead again, the next challenge, one of the other challenges, I guess, is that only 9 to 10% of young people go on to further higher education. That's a remarkable figure. How on earth is Thurrock going to, especially in the present climate, especially with tuition fees, how are you going to combat that?
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that's something that runs through the breadth of education in Thurrock. It's not good enough, I guess, to rest on our laurels. We need to be somewhere that really is ambitious about the future of our young people. And in a sense, I'd go back right to primary stage when I think, we should be thinking of equipping future Oxbridge graduates at that stage and really treating our pupils as though that's where they're going to be. Because it's not good enough to have this kind of malaise of non-expectation on what pupils can achieve. We have to be absolutely driving their performance forward and really, being ambitious about their future, because they can have a bright future, and we really need to get to grips with making that happen.
You now take, I believe you take Wednesdays off in order to do, what is now going to be, what is a typical Wednesday for you now within the council offices?
That's right. So I think that's a clear recognition from my point of view that in order to do this portfolio, I need to be around the office to meet education staff. I need to be on site with schools. Today's a great example where we had the schools forum in the morning, a visit to the PRU in the afternoon to look at progress there, and I think very pleased with the way that the secondary PRU in particular is really starting to pick up pace with improvement now. And it's just about that visibility and making the contacts that I need to make in order to to satisfy myself that the service is improving at the rate that we need it to.
There seems to be a perception that with the restructuring there are no education experts at the top of service.
Well, I mean, I'll definitely say that isn't the case, and our head of service that's taking the role focusing on education comes from an education background, absolutely is full-time on concentrating on improving the educational service in Thurrock, being a point of contact for schools, at the council, for councillors, and really is tasked with giving the kind of focus to education that we know it needs to actually keep the service improving.